It's James, your YouTube color consultant. Well, sort of. More specifically, I'm gonna tell you about this paint color by Benjamin Moore. I'll give you some technical information on it, what you can expect while using it in your home, and then of course I got some trim colors and color pairings that you can use alongside it. That way you have a whole entire color palette at your disposal, featuring the color China White, which Benjamin Moore does a decent job describing as cool gray undertones freshen up this shade of white. Now why don't we start there? I don't want this to be too misleading because even though it starts with cool gray, I do think that China White has a warmer feel to it, although to a very soft and subtle degree. It does sit in that light grayish area of colors that combine beige and gray together, which makes it a warmer leaning neutral color. And don't let this throw you off, but dare I say there maybe is a dash of orange there too. That will help prevent it from pulling too far into cooler greeny undertone territory. I do find this color to be soft and inoffensive, all things considered. Now we need to talk about how light this color is, and it scores around a 76 LRV. So for those of you that don't know what light reflectance value is, it's a 0 to 100 percentage of light that a color reflects. So 76 is in that upper echelon of colors, which means this color will feel pretty light and bright in the home, and especially when you use it outside of your home, when you have sunlight illuminating it, it's going to brighten up considerably. So for that reason, I do think this is a great color if you want to use it in the main parts of your home, inside and out. With an abundance of light on it, it may wash out a tad, and those subtle nuances and undertones won't really be that noticeable, but I think you can use that to your advantage because then the color won't really be standing out. Everything else in your home, all that awesome curated stuff, I was gonna say something else, that will be the feature. Now, to be fair, I do think that this color may feel a bit uninspired if it's the only thing you're seeing in your home. So I do have some color pairings coming up at the end of the video that go really well with it. But first, I gotta talk about some trim color options because you gotta paint your baseboards too. And although you might be tempted to continue China White onto your baseboards and trim, maybe hear these options first before you decide to do that. So typically, a classic choice would be to go with white trim or baseboards, and the white that I would recommend for China White is Super White. This is one of my favorite white trim colors to use for the fact that it's simple, it's clean, it's reliable, it's bright without being too bright. It's not overly obnoxious with how clean and crisp it is, but it's definitely bright enough to differentiate itself. There is about a 10 LRV difference between Super White and China White, and that's just enough of a gap to allow them to be separate visually. You don't want them to be too similar because it'll be a bit ambiguous and it might seem like the same color when it's not. You've taken the time and the effort to pick two colors and use them. So you want to be able to notice that difference. Now for a darker trim color option, if you want something a little more dramatic and fun, Eagle Rock would be my choice. And this color sort of seems more like a taupe. It has a combination of a slate gray and brown mixed together. I would say this color has a little bit more of a red undertone than China White for sure. It's not identical in terms of its composition, but I think they're well within the same family of colors. Very adjacent, I would say, on the color wheel. And now we got to get into the color pairings. This is my favorite part of the video. I hope you enjoy it too. And if you do like color pairings, click that like button for me just to show the support because I'm very excited about these choices. Very saturated, a lot of fun color. And I picked these because China White on its own, it's pretty passive. So you can really lean on that color more heavily if you want something a little more minimalist and scandy. Or if you want some color, maximalism, you can start with Beach House Beige, which sounds kind of boring when you just hear the name, but when you see it in person especially, this is a color that is an orangey rusty tan that has quite a bit of saturation while still being a borderline neutral color. But essentially what you're getting here is a deep mid-tone caramel. Really, really nice and rich, fun, pretty saturated without being too polarizing and vibrant. You then have the second color pairing, which is another accent color, I would say. It's a deep saturated blackened green, and this color is called Dakota Shadow. It has an 11 LRV, so the darkest color for sure, even darker than the dark trim color we talked about earlier. And of course, what you're getting here is just a deep forest green, has a little bit of a warmer undertone as well, so it's not going to feel bluish or cool or teal leaning unless you have blue light on it, like the wall behind me. But to me, this color has a little more versatility than you might think. Even though it is so dark, dark, it has a lovely energy to it that will feel uplifting even though it's so rich. Not quite as moody as a charcoal gray or a navy blue or a deep purple. Greens have this special quality to them, and they work so well with off-whites like China white and natural finishes and textures like wood and stone and anything else you might have in your home. And then for my third color pairing, this is technically the lightest of the three, but it's definitely the most polarizing. It's maybe one that you want to use in one area to make it really special and energetic. It's called Sombrero. And honestly, this color really has a Dijon mustard feel to it. It's very energetic, very fun, but it still manages to have this slightly softened edge to it, as soft as a yellow like this can be, but it's not quite your French's yellow mustard where it's just pure yellow. This one, it just has that touch of tan, maybe a slight hint of kind of an army green or khaki sort of color, just to soften it and help incorporate it with the other colors really, really well. But like I've said in previous videos, yellows are very energetic, a lot to take in. So if you are using this in a space that you use often and for long periods of time, just keep in mind that this is a color that has a lot of oomph. But as you can see, it looks beautiful with beiges and greens, those dark greens. And then even this watering can here has this sort of taupey feel. So a lot of the colors all working together in one picture right here. Here's the palette all together. Let me know what you think of this one. And for more colorful action, you can check out this video right over here.